Merry Christmas and a happy holiday season to everybody out there from Hobbit Racing. We're back in the Shire. A little Christmas cheer a day later, albeit. Had a wonderful family time. We had a great time around the dinner table yesterday. But a quick review. Wow, just what a slot car haul for Christmas. Let's check it out. Well, what a slot car Christmas it was this year. Just such wonderful stuff here that we are going to take a quick look at. One of my favorite parts we can start off with is the CGMA01A. My goodness, just so many things you can do with this that I asked the kids in Santa, whoever was getting me these, to I'd take 4. It's awesome. This device is invaluable, ingenious as well. Whatever you need to do to turn a long can motor pod or a long can mount, depending on most of the time, that means it's a podded chassis, into a short can, this is your go-to place to be right here. Thank you, CG Slot Cars. Ironically, all 4 of the cars that are in front of you right here are going to require this because they're all going to be in one way, shape, or form transformed into a class that can be raced at Hobbit Racing Park. It is going to require either a Piranha or an MX-16 as their class compliant motor. But now let's really dive in. There's a little bit of a theme here, completely unintentional based on my wish list, but I think everywhere we went around the German spectrum, I think the only car maybe I didn't get was a Mercedes. But I don't know. These are in no particular order, but my goodness, just had to have this car. Just so inspired by the Le Mans Winners Collection. This is a car that has been out there for many, many, many years, and just I couldn't wait to have it. I've driven it by others. I have the 911 GT1 in the Warsteiner livery. Here's your card. This is number 2,632 of 3,500 limited edition releases. So they're still out there. They're absolutely still out there. And, it's just a beautiful car. Honestly, it's my favorite Porsche. It's everything that a Porsche is, and it's everything that a Porsche isn't, right? That's a prototype. That was the beginning of the prototype era, and they spared no expense really in the GT1 era, right? We had our McLaren, we had our GTR, we had our Toyota GT1, we have our Mercedes GT1, but to me, this car just screams speed and elegance and everything that was done. It was the beginning of the fried egg headlights too, if I'm not mistaken. So let's take a little bit of a look at this for a second. So really and truly, just such a consistent car here. We'll put some zero grips on here. Or maybe we'll try and keep the consistency of the Michelin tires up there. We're not going to achieve that in the rear because we're going to be putting quick slicks on here. This will be a oh gosh, I can't recall, but maybe this is the original release of this and it's not the same. I feel like there should be CB58s going on back here, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just forgetting that CB34s go on here, but I believe CB58s fit this car. But just a beautiful, beautiful livery. Just again, something draws me to this car. Just the beautiful, beautiful lines of the 911 GT1. In my opinion, they got it right when they moved to the Evo. This is the Evo version of this car. This is 1998. Revo Slot has obviously done the 911 GT1 original version of these from 96 and 97, and I love the ones that I have from there, but clearly there's something about this car that draws me to it. It's going to be a great runner. I just know it is. I might change the pod. I might not change the pod. Certainly we're going to put the MX-16 in here or a Piranha. Usually we run around a good 266, 67, maybe 254, maybe even as high as 2.8 on this track. To get a good consistent runner out of what is the GT high performance class. Now, let's move right along rapidly to another car that is going to fit into the GT High Performance class. This Scale Auto car right here. I had had my eye on the BMWs as of late, and boy, I am so excited about this car. The M8 was a short-lived GT Le Mans entry, both in FIA WEC and in IMSA, but man, there's just something about the elongation of it that just makes it so enticing. I think it's going to be a great runner from a slot car perspective. You do have the M4 from Sideways, but you've got the M8 here from Scale Auto, and I think this is just going to be a fantastic car. The R series are just such great running cars, also as well in the first place with the chassis enhancements they've done. Let's take a closer look at this car briefly. Talk about just some beautiful detail. I mean, again, the Scale Auto's just got it down with this car, all the way down to the brakes and the inserts on the wheels. Just absolutely beautiful, beautiful livery. In fact, you know, I'm already probably going to go back after the following year's livery in black. It was also, I think, the race-winning livery. Yes, certainly, you know, you have a little bit of a different grille there as opposed to the newer BMW grills that is double tall. But just, my goodness, talk about some beautiful lines there on that car. It's just, I feel like this is going to be a great, great slot car. I certainly can't say that it's going to be the perfect magic triangle, but I don't know. To me, it sure seems like it's going to be a nice one. Love the rear diffuser. Whether I keep the medium chassis or not, we will make that black, just like we have done with the 963 GTPs that I have. Love the rear spoiler on these. All the new GT Le Mans and GT3 spoilers with the overhanging stanchion. It's just a cool thing to even behold at 32nd scale. This is just a gorgeous car. Again, going to keep an angle winder. You know, this pod can be changed out to a slotted pod for those of you that you know, are just more familiar with working with those. Doesn't mean you can't do it with these. Scale Auto does try and keep the pitch of the gears more consistent as opposed to slotted, keeping the angle and the size, pardon me, of the gear consistent. And so you just have to figure out the right size for you. If you keep this pod, you may encounter some differences in terms of switching out to slotted gears if you want to, which might make it easier if you just exchange the whole entire thing for a slotted pod, and then you won't have to deal with potentially slightly different angles that are being played out right here and the lineup of the pinion and the gear. It's just something to consider, or you can run the car the same way it is right out of the box. It all depends on your desire, your skill set, or your willingness to learn about what skill set you might need to in the future. But these are fantastic cars, fully adjustable. Obviously, most of the Scale Auto ones come with the you know, ability, if you've got some hills and valleys on your track, they have the spring loaded. I'll just be removing that spring and we'll just be using that guide as is. I love Scale Auto guides. You may have heard me say that before. We'll probably widen that stance just slightly, get some spacers in there. Same thing on the 911 GT1. But otherwise, these cars are just fantastic out of the box. And the pods and the newer chassis, the R version is just a wonderful thing in it itself. I have a C7 Vet, aka the A7R. I don't know. Scale Auto didn't pay to call it a C7R. Nonetheless, we move on to the Ninko. Again, now this is not a new car, but this is a car that just completes things for me that I had to have this car. The Audi R18 is my favorite LMP car from the Le Mans prototype from the LMP1 era. And I think Ninko does a fantastic job. I put these Ninkos slightly ahead of the slotted version of these in terms of their performance and what you can squeeze out of them. And then just below the NSR version of these cars, although I can still squeeze an awful lot out of them. I actually took one of these, if you go back to an older video of mine, where I changed out to a lot of the parts to be almost NSR-like, where I put NSR wheels all around, so they were aluminum wheels all the way around, and I put the inserts in there to make it match more to the livery that it was. You can go check that video out. Maybe I'll make the link to that one at the end of this one. This car is the race-winning Le Mans livery from, what is it, 2013? 2011, pardon me, of course. How could I forget? Audi Ultra. This was before the Audi Ultra is the ultra lightweight technology, but it was not it was not the hybrid version of the car. Now, that being said, there are a couple of things to note about this car if you're going to be a nitpicker, but if you want to tune the car. Everybody pays only so much, I suppose, for the livery, and these wheels are opposites. So the two things to note about this car, and again, it's a beautiful car. You can leave it as is. They did do a presentation mode. They did do a presentation version of this car as well. So, you know, it can be what it is. Or if you feel like you're so desire to change it out, you can, because it is the 15 spoke. So if you were to change this out to NSR spokes, they'd only be 12 spokes. So these are the right spokes that go with this car in a 1-to-1, but they inverted. This should be silver around here, and in the middle, it should be black. So I'll be making that true to form. I think the car looks much sharper with the silver inside of there. And then the only other difference, if I'm not mistaken, about the livery itself in terms of the true to form Le Mans race winning livery is the fact that I believe back in the day, before they moved further forward with what they did for the P1, the prototype 1 notion on the car, I believe that's in red back in 2011, and you can't change that. That's tampoed onto the car. That is not something that I would get into unless I found some old P1 water slide decals that were exactly the right size. But that's not the goal of the exercise. The goal of the exercise for me is to, that tire is not even sitting on there straight. It's pretty funny. The goal of the exercise for me is to get it pretty livery compliant with the wheels. The wheels make a huge difference. It just looks dark for me because it is. They're black rims and they shouldn't be. This, don't underestimate this. If you've ever gotten an Ninko, yes, this plastic is a little bit more loud at the end of the day than maybe a more refined. This is almost like, again, it's got some sort of styrene component inside of it or something like that. But this little system here, even though you can't adjust it from the outside, and you have 2 screws on the inside that you can adjust the pod and the springs, they're fantastic. You've got fully adjustable front axle here with your set screws. Begging for some spacers in there. That's not livable. We'll change out this snapping guide. And I've got something to share with you all as far as the going back to the CG Slot Cars adapter. This will definitely take an adapter to lower this guide. But again, then this will be CB58s here. Probably going to stick with the aluminum rims, wheels that came with it. But this is a fun car. Again, the R18s are just, I don't know. I have a lot. I have at least 4 or 5 R18s now. This is my favorite LMP car from that era. So we'll move this aside and we'll move on to the very last one, which is a big project for me that I've been planning for months. The last thing that I got is a little bit of a rarity in our hobby, but certainly those that know that they are making great cars at SRC. Some rally cars, some other cars, some white kits. The Chrono kit is what this is called right here. And hopefully it's recognizable in the state that it's in right here when I take it off and share with you a little bit. I'm going to do a full breakdown on this car a little bit later. But this is the Porsche 919. This comes a close second to the R18 for me. This actually overtook the R18 in the latter years of LMP1, where LMP1 really died down, and now we know what is out there in the modern hypercar era. There's still a lot of features of these cars that you can see that quickly transitioned from the LMP1 era to the hypercar era. Obviously, the number one thing that happened over the course of the decades of the 2000 teens was the closed cockpit design, but then you started to see the consistencies in amongst. And this car is just they did everything they could to make this car come out there and get ahead of Toyota. And the Toyota GRs are great cars too. The Gazoo Racing Team is a great car, but I've not necessarily been drawn to the Toyotas, Audis, and Porsches. And so I'm really excited about this car. This will be the 2017, I believe. Le Mans winning livery. This will be a wonderful project for me. You literally, unlike some white kits, well, I shouldn't say that. You know, there are plenty of white kits where the car is in pieces and you have to put it together, but you have to do pretty much everything for this car. Great chassis design. You've got some wonderful float points to connect. You've got some points in the front to connect, and you've got a nice towered suspension piece in the front and the side and the back and the sides. Everything. I mean, the body isn't even completely plastic soldered together yet. So this is just going to be a fun project for me. I think I'm going to airbrush this car as well. I you know, from a No Shelf Queens perspective, I do plan to race it at least once. Hopefully, we'll see how that goes. But this is all about the modeling aspect of it for me. This will be a very slow, methodical process for me to take my time and put this one together as well as I possibly can. And you just got every single thing. For example, you know, I believe the front axle is a smaller front axle than the rear, being probably a 238, 2.38 in the back, but the front is like a 2mm axle specific, and you have to put together the wheels. They're lightened wheels, and you actually put them together from the mold, and then you create your own front wheel, all lightened from the materials. So you've got a lot of choices. There's a lot of different rear choices for how you want the rear axle to sit. This is really fun. I certainly don't expect you know, the average slot car hobbyist to go for one of these cars, but these are really good competition cars. And for me, in this particular case, it's all about the ability to create a model in a 30-second scale for a car and a livery that simply does not exist, and to be able to make a good quality runner out of it and be able to at least get it going in a race one time, maybe a couple of times. And if it's a nice solid runner, then I'll keep it going in the race stable as well. And if not, then nothing else. I'll have a wonderful model, but I do expect, based on the competition parts that are in there, I really do expect it to be a wonderful runner. So that was Slot Car Christmas from Hobbit Racing. Take care out there, and I look forward to really starting to tune up these cars. I think, if nothing else, definitely going to have some content on this car. There's already content out there on how I've done this car, and I think most people are very familiar with the 911 GT1. That we'll get some laps in on that car, but I'm really going to focus on the SRC car for some content, and definitely going to focus on the Scale Auto car for some content. This car really excites me here.
Wow, what an exciting time around Hobbit Racing, but what is it not, right? We've got so much slot car stuff going on. So don't forget, if you haven't turned on those notifications, turn on those notifications and hit that subscribe button, and you'll know when our next video is coming out. My goodness, we've got lots to work on. Have a great rest of your holiday season. Thanks for watching.
If you don't subscribe to Hobbit Racing, I'll poke you with my staff. Pokey, pokey, pokey.
She will poke you with her staff.
Pokey!